Today on the Sean and Bo Show, the NFL has begun HGH testing, but some players don't even know they're screening for it.
And this week in college football proves that even with the playoff, we still don't know who number one is.
And the Bills say that a fan was pointing a laser at them. Plus, we'll get to our Week 6 NFL picks. It's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Once again, it's the Sean and Bo Show, episode 23. I'm Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host, Bo Greer. And Bo, we have a lot to get to, but before we start in on the topics, we got to say thanks, man. 2 weeks ago, we had the best ratings, the best viewership in the show's history. This last week, we even beat that. So it's been a tremendous couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Thank you to you listeners. Thank you, everybody, for sharing it, telling a friend, posting on Facebook, hopping on Twitter. We really appreciate it, and we depend on you to keep growing the show. So let's keep the momentum up, and also thank you to all the great guests we've had on recently as well. We certainly appreciate that. It's been awesome lately, Bo.
Yeah, it's been a great couple of weeks. I've really enjoyed actually talking to somebody else besides yourself, Sean, because as you know, Sean and I, we're both Midwesterners, but Sean, he came from a little farther east in the Midwest than I did, and he's a Phillies fan. So baseball's
Why
been
you got to bring that up right
he's
now?
been in his rear. It's been in his rear view since June.
I had a bad enough weekend with my Chiefs losing. We're sitting here watching baseball playoffs. You got to bring up the Phillies.
Yeah, I got to bring up my Cardinals. I grew up in the Midwest, so the first baseball game and the only baseball games I ever went to as a kid were in Busch Stadium. And I just have to say, it is nice to see all that red and white cheering.
No, it's not.
We're on our way, baby.
No, you're
Cardinals
not.
Going to do it again.
No, you're not. Now get ready for this is just going to be an avalanche when the shoe begins to fall, so to speak. NFL just started HGH screening this week, and now you'd think to yourself, well, if you're a professional athlete, you knew that this was coming, right? You have plenty of time to get off the stuff. Get another supplement that they're not testing for, right? Maybe not. Some NFL players apparently don't even know the NFL has begun screening, like the running back from the New York Giants, Rashad Jennings, who said he was being interviewed. The interviewers noticed that he had a bandage on one of his arms, so they're like, "Did you get tested for HGH there, buddy?" And he was like, "What are you talking about?" Said, quote, "Is it? They're testing for that now? Really?" He went on to say, "I learned something new today. They're really testing for that?" When asked how he thought it would affect teams and players in the NFL, he said, "Well, that changes a lot."
Yeah.
Now, you played college football for the University of New Mexico, Bo. How prevalent is HGH even on the college level?
Oh, yeah. They bring us in. They test for it. The beginning of the year, you pretty much know when that test is coming up. They do a random sampling, but it was interesting to me because I never got pulled for that random sampling. I don't ever remember, like, big guys or starters. I always thought it was interesting that I led my team in bench press or squat every year in college, but I never was randomly sampled.
You were just on baked potatoes.
Yeah, baked potatoes. And I think it's funny. Well, to the outside person who's never played football, you may not have ever experienced this. But during the years that I was playing college football, I would struggle in political science classes, and people who know me are like, "Bo, struggling with political science, that's all that guy sits around and watches and talks about is politics." You don't have time. You, like, when you're in a locker room, your coach is almost like, who's the guy I did a little bit of history in school. Goebbels. He was the minister of propaganda for the Third Reich, right?
Yeah.
Your coach is often like Goebbels. He controls the media you ingest, tells you not to turn on the TV when you leave practice because he doesn't want the outside world affecting you. He only wants you recognizing cover two blitzes and everything else that's involved with winning football games. So whenever Rashad says that, I am not surprised because he is, I think, he's fourth on the rushing list right now.
Did you just compare the coaching staff at the University of New Mexico to Nazis, Bo? Is that what we're doing here?
That's what all coaches are like. Oh my gosh. You should see there is always a coach on a staff, even in high school, that is responsible for propaganda. You have to get all the local papers. You have to get the papers from the other town and make sure nobody's talking trash. And then you know where they post them up? You know where your football players spend all their time when they're in the locker room? On the inside of the toilet. You put them all there because that's where they sit most of the time when they're in the locker room.
So it's not really bulletin board material. It's
No.
more like stall material.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, stall material.
Somebody that knows a little something about propaganda and opening his mouth and saying what's on his mind is the Seahawks' Richard Sherman. Well, following the game that they just played, he found himself a new Michael Crabtree, apparently. During a play, it looked like Sherman was kind of holding. He was trying to cover Pierre Garçon. And what actually happened when you go back and look at the footage is Pierre Garçon kind of reached out, grabbed him by the dreads, and then kind of did it was almost like a push off, except he like grabbed him and kind of threw him down in front of him and then ran around. And Sherman was having absolutely none of that post game. He, of course, was already talking smack, saying, well, he's not even relevant in the league, and, you can check the TV broadcast and see what really happened, et cetera, et cetera. Now, I've always been a Richard Sherman fan. Mm-hmm. I think that the guy is more intelligent than he often gets credit for. I think a lot of this smack talk is basically him just trying to gain a mental advantage over his opponents, make his opponents think about him and not about playing the actual
He's good
game.
at it.
So, I've been a fan of Richard Sherman's, but I have to say Pierre Garçon had the perfect response. He just posted FYI and then a picture with a quotation, silence is the best reply to a fool.
Ooh.
Burn. Get some.
Wow.
So we'll see if that develops into more of a Michael Crabtree back and forth. I kind of doubt it. But Richard Sherman, he's going to find his targets. He's never short of somebody to talk a little smack about. So that's really not all that surprising.
It's from the outside, it looks like a bunch of child's play. You're like, man, you got these grown men who are millionaires that spend time on Twitter taking shots at each other, regardless of if it has to do with their play on the field, what kind of food the guy eats, what kind of car he drives, they'll take a shot at you. But it's almost with Seattle, it's become their identity. And it's like with teams like that, it's scary. And my Cowboys play Seattle this weekend. When a team can talk trash and back it up 99.9% of the time, that is scary. And Richard Sherman seems to lead that charge. Like he's the guy with the big bullhorn talking all the trash. And every one of those guys on the defense are behind him ready to back it up. So, like you said, you like him. I think we all like him because he's talking trash and the play on the field matches it. If he's just one of those guys out there talking and they're getting smoked like the Raiders, we'd be, get out of here, guy.
Better smack talker, Richard Sherman or Steve Smith?
Ooh, man. Steve Smith is like that little kid on the playground that gets under your skin. You just want to fight him so bad you don't know why. Richard Sherman, I think you kind of laugh it off like with the reply.
I would say that in a long form scenario, like maybe over the course of a game, Sherman might have the edge, but I mean, Steve Smith, the best 3 words in trash talk history, ice up, son. Come on, you can't beat that. It's simple, it's to the point. Now, meanwhile, in San Francisco, of course, the division rival of the Seahawks, there's a bit of a question regarding the future of Coach Harbaugh. There was a report that came out that said, win or lose the Super Bowl this year, he's gone.
Yeah.
Now, this made me scratch my head. We talked about this a little bit last week. The notion of, do you care if you like a coach if that coach is winning for you, if he's putting the product on the field together? And you said, probably not. You're willing to put up with a lot to get those W's. The owner of the Niners has since come out and refuted this story. But for Harbaugh, I mean, you're putting up with enough stress, coaching this team, the lofty expectations that Niner fans have. I mean, is this the kind of thing that would push him over the edge to maybe go back into college coaching?
This is one of those things that reminds me of the 80s. We, as a society, have forgotten that college football was the number 1 ratings getter. College football was the number 1 ticket seller. For all these years, football was being built in America. People turned on college football before they turned on the ragtag league that is now the Shield. So all that being said, we're still reminded by guys like Nick Saban and now Jim Harbaugh that, man, when you got a whole lot of boosters that all went off and started businesses and own private practices and are members of hedge funds, they have a lot of power. I would not be surprised, Sean, if you could do some digging and find out that the editor of the paper who ran the story saying that he's gone with the Super Bowl victory or not is not himself an alumni of the Maize and Blue. They have that kind of reach in college. You're talking about alumni that come out of journalism departments year after year that love their university. And I'm sorry, if I'm Harbaugh, Michigan's talking to me. And if I'm the GM or the owner of the Niners or the GM or the owner of any other team in the NFL, I sit down with my coach and I have this discussion. What's the job? What is the job that's going to come in here, have you singing fight songs, you're going to have tears in your eyes? Because I don't care who you are. An NFL team is still just an NFL team. They pay athletes to perform. They sell tickets to fans that fight in parking lots.
And bathrooms.
We'll
get to that a little later.
It's not something that you're going to hang your hat on. With a college, you still have the ability to affect the lives of young men and women.
Yeah, but in the NFL, you don't have to put up with boosters or parrots.
I don't know about that because I've often wondered, is a general manager and an owner more difficult than a booster? Because a booster, while they may overstep, they can still be put in check because you're still the CEO on that campus. But GMs and owners, he still signs your check. Like, that man signs your check.
I think it's one of the examples of like the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. Mm-hmm. Like, a GM or an owner, they obviously have a position of power, but boosters are shady as hell.
Oh yeah.
And half the time it's like, it's not like you can, they wield the kind of influence that you can't necessarily even respond to because they're not like a unified body. They're like they're shadowy figures in parking garages. They're not like officials. You can't necessarily have meetings with these people all the time. So college coaching, I mean, if you get into the right spot, you're going to be treated like a god. Yeah. There's not an NFL coach that wields the kind of influence in their market or for their team that like a Saban does, for example. But
that's why people came down so hard on Paterno. If you're still a part of the group of people, like the guy who caught the Immaculate Reception, what's his name? Like, the guy is just so blind. I can't even think of his name right now. Steelers, great. Immaculate Reception, he caught the pass. Goodness.
I'm drawing a blank.
I
know who the quarterback was.
Like, I can see him in my face. But anyway, he is still out there champion. He's like, Paterno was innocent. No, Paterno is the third highest paid public employee of the state of Pennsylvania. A college football coach is 9 times out of 10 in the top 10 list of salaries as far as a state goes. So when you step into that position, you are an overpaid guy with a whistle around your neck. You need to understand that there are certain things that you need to stand up for, and there's certain things you need to just be quiet and go back to coaching football. But what you were just saying, they wield power. And when I look at Harbaugh, my man's a dictator. He is a straight-up dictator, baby.
He is a tyrant in khakis.
He will, if he wins a national championship at the University of Michigan, there will be a Chevrolet named after him. It'll be the Harbaugh. It'll be reliable. It'll be khaki-colored, and you'll be able to fit a family of 8 in it. Like, seriously. Like, do you realize how big Harbaugh in Michigan is going to be? Good Lord. They've been waiting for him to show up since he took San Francisco to the Super Bowl. Remember, they were talking about it then. Now, the climate's right. They're never going to get another chance. And what kind of check do you wave in his face? Do you pay him more than Saban? I think you do. You have to make him the highest paid college football coach.
I would say no, not immediately. Not until you get an extension. I mean, it might be what it would take to lure him to that job, but we've seen it time and time again that success in the NFL doesn't translate to success in the college game, and vice versa. So he might have to go in there and show and prove a little bit before he gets the max, big fat contract.
3.5 a year to start, and then on the extension, he'll be making more money than some CEOs in this country. Dude will just be balling out.
Franco Harris.
Franco Harris, golly. The man was just blind. He was like a battered person that was just allowing it to continue. You need to stand up, Franco. Like, I'll never get over Franco Harris and some of the statements he made while that whole Sandusky trial was going on.
Another coach that was in the headlines, probably for the wrong reasons, Jim Schwartz. Now, I didn't watch this game. I was watching another game, but I heard Golden Tate statements about what went on in the wake of that victory. Exactly what happened there, Bo.
Buffalo comes back and wins the game, which I thought the game was over. And Schwartz, the classiest man in the NFL, yeah, right, allows two Buffalo players to hoist him up on their shoulders, which, if you don't know, Schwartz was the head coach of the Detroit Lions. They had zero success, and he had tools.
He looks like a tool, too.
For me, I was looking at it as when T.O. ran out to do his little thing on the Star in Dallas. There's celebration, and then there's, hey, look at me. A coach should never, ever be a part of a, hey, look at me. It's always up to your players. If your players want to dump water on you, if your players want to hoist you up after a championship win, great. But as a coach, I guarantee there's a lot of coaches in the NFL that would have turned to those players like, hey, guys, great win.
It's a regular season
you're
game.
not going to carry me off the field right now.
It's not like he's going to the Super Bowl because of this win. I mean.
And it's not like he was fired after they went to 3 straight playoffs. You know, it's not like they did him wrong. They gave Schwartz a chance. I mean, golly, do you remember some of the teams he was a part of? You got Ndamukong Suh out there. Stafford was hurt a lot, but the other pieces were steady. And you're telling me you could not get that Detroit team to a playoffs, even in the years when Aaron Rodgers was out, even when the Bears were down, they just were not doing it. And for him to say, okay, guys, throw me up on your shoulders and carry me off the field, I feel that story, Sean, should have been front and center, because they always take their moments to take shots at players when they do silly, foolish things. There's a leader of a team, there's a CEO of an organization, and he is acting like a buffoon. That's all I got to say about it.
Somebody else that knows a little something about me moments is your boy Johnny Football, Bo. This time around, he's getting chastised for, not crying on the sideline during a defeat?
Yes, if you can't tell, these stories where we take shots at the media when they don't cover someone and when they choose to overcover someone, they come from me, people, because I can't stand when all this hate, they're just being haters, is misplaced. The head coach of the Cleveland Browns had to answer a question thrown at him it was something like this, Sean. How did you feel when Johnny Manziel smiled while the Cleveland Browns were down by 23 points on the sideline? As if he's supposed to be turned to the side. Hey, did the receivers get their routes? Did the quarterback do the right thing? Oh, by the way, is Johnny smiling
Let's
right
check
now?
the facial expression on Johnny Football. Let's get an update on that. Do we have a coach watching that?
And then here's the worst part. You can tell the reporter had to be the only person who saw it in the beginning, because he felt like this question was still relevant after Cleveland comes back and wins the game by a point. They didn't even lose the game. So what Johnny did really was a non-factor. He was just on the sideline, probably seen a cute girl, told a guy a joke, something along those lines, and they felt the NFL Network, the Shields Network, ran this story. It was in the loop today, Sean. Sad.
All right, coming up on the show, Tony Romo and a couple of Bengals are calling out their respective fan bases. We'll talk about that, whether it's fair or foul for a player to do that. Also, we talked about the Bills just now, and they say that there was laser interference. Apparently, Dr. Evil was in the crowd at that game wielding a laser pointer. And coming up, just how badly did I beat Bo in week 1 of our NFL picks? We'll get to that as well. It's coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Once again, thank you, beautiful, beautiful people, for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. We truly appreciate it, and we depend on you to grow the show. So please, for the love of all that is holy, tell someone about the Sean and Bo Show. We've had some great guests lately. If you've missed any of those past episodes, catch up for free. Just go to seanandboshow.podomatic.com. Also available on iTunes and YouTube, however you like ingesting and digesting your podcasts. We have the way for you to do so. Also, an upcoming segment on the show, we're going to start taking a question per episode from one of you listeners. So definitely hit us up on Twitter at Sean and Bo Show, or shoot us an email, seanandboshow@gmail.com. Back to the show.
And it's time to get this second half underway, Sean, and it's going to be an interesting second half because we're going to start off talking about some NFL players that borrowed a page from your man Nick Saban in calling out the fans this weekend. Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, it started off with your boy Tony Romo, who chastised Dallas fans for basically selling their season tickets to the opposing fan base. He said, this week we played an away game. And, of course, they were at Jerry World. So
Yeah.
that was the first instance. And then you had a couple of Bengal players who slightly different take, but they were also calling out their fan bases. The first of which, Iloka, is that his name? Safety, George Iloka, on bandwagon fans said, quote, "Let them jump off. I'm not worried about the people who jump off. We don't want them as fans anyway." And he wasn't the only Bengal. Also, Pro Bowl offensive tackle Andrew Whitworth also didn't mince words. When he was talking about these fair weather fans, he went on to say they didn't come to the games when we were 3-0, so I don't know what to say to them. This stuff's garbage. I'm not worried about the fans or the media or any of that crap. We need to go play well and win. The same people thought Tom Brady should quit football and retire from the NFL a week ago. So I bet they don't think that now. There's a lot of people who are reaping what they sowed in their comments last week about the New England Patriots, and now the team that everyone would consider the hottest team in the league, the Bengals, the same thing. They beat the snot out of it. So what does everybody have to say now?
All right. So this is usually where, me as a football player, I side with the fans. Even being a coach, I side with the fans because if you've ever had a job, which everybody on earth has pretty much worked somewhere, when they were training you for that job to take money, deal with customers at the counter, deliver pizzas, whatever it is, did the manager ever turn to you and say, hey, and after they give you the money, if they act like a jerk, you go on Twitter and you blow them up, buddy? Because that's essentially
that would be best job ever.
Yeah. Like when I was working at Enterprise, when people were mad because I didn't have a Chrysler 300 that was black with leather. Come on, people. You really think that a company that makes $1 billion a day is going to hold a $35,000 vehicle off to the side because you want a specific color and specific seat type? Like, get out of here, man. It's not going to happen. But as a manager, it was customer service, Sean. Customer's always right. I had to sit there with a smile on my face and apologize because I didn't have that Chrysler 300. That's where Tony Romo and everybody else who thinks it's a good idea to call out fans needs to be quiet, because I'll tell you exactly what happens. I have family and friends who own season tickets with the Colts. If you work in a factory, you work a 9-to-5 job, you're 9-to-5 Charlie, you may get called in on Sunday. It happens. Sorry, Tony Romo. Not everybody has Sundays off, buddy. And when Houston's coming to town, if you have to pick up a shift or your kid has a Little League game, selling that ticket to a Texans fan for $300 over face value.
See, and that's exactly it.
That's a great day.
Exactly it. Romo seems to understand it, although not respect it. But these Bengals players that called out the fan base, they don't seem to get it. The reality is it's about money.
Yes.
It's not if your team's doing well that week or not is going to determine if you go to the stadium and watch. I mean, if you're a fan of the team, you're a fan of the team. You're going to go. And in fact, if your team isn't doing so hot, that might even be better reason to go because the tickets are going to be cheaper.
Yeah.
In a world where you have $14 beers, $10 waters, fights in the bathroom, drunken, obnoxious fans, and versus a nice 60-inch plasma at home with a fridge full of beer, that's what's going to determine whether or not you show up to the stadium.
Yeah.
It's about money.
It's all about money.
People, times are tough for pretty much everybody. Maybe not NFL players.
Here's a great example, Sean. I have not been to the new Jerry World to see the Cowboys. I've seen the Cowboys in Indianapolis. I have 2 kids. I'm a teacher. I'm a coach. I'm not breaking the bank right now. I have a wife who works hard. We have bills like every other American. I just can't swing it. My wife, though, is in a position with her company because they're part owners in the Cowboys. One of her largest customers happened to be a Cowboys fan. Well, he has the opportunity or the ability to buy box seats, right?
Yeah.
So when distributing these box seats, being a kind of guy he is, he's like, well, that Bo guy, he's a Cowboys fan and I work with his wife. Can you me and my wife are going to go let him sit in the box. Sean, this will be an experience that I will never be able to accomplish on my salary.
When are we going?
Yeah, exactly. This is one of those instances where if I had the money, I would be at every Cowboys game wearing my gear. I'd be in a box seat. I'd be spending money, but I can't do that. This gentleman's going to allow me to go. So players, you got to back off that. You're never going to win over a group of fans or a hardworking group of Americans, which a majority of the fans of the NFL are blue collar.
Has
saying that.
Has there ever been an instance where it was a smart move for a millionaire player to talk smack about the fan base?
Never.
This is always a bad idea. Always.
Never. They pay your salary.
Yeah. Now, if they wanted to be upset at a fan, well, this guy probably deserves it. The Buffalo Bills say that somebody in the stands was aiming a laser pointer and interfering, trying to distract players during the game. Now, the NFL is currently looking into it. Now, if this isn't stupid enough, the guy that reportedly did this one-upped himself by bragging about it on Twitter. If you're gonna break the law, stay off of social media. He said something like, "Hey, y'all, if you see a green laser on one of the Bills players, just laugh. That's me."
Wow. It's like the kids who tape the fights after school now, and the principals and the police already know. It's like, well, he uploaded it from his personal iPad, and then we got him on tape. People are so dumb. First of all, taking a laser pointer to an NFL game is kind of like the guy who wears a captain's hat to a party, but he doesn't drink alcohol. You can't do that. You're a loser. I don't know how else to say it. I shouldn't be using these words. These are no words. You're a loser, buddy. You are a straight up loser. Hey, I got this $90 ticket to a game. Let me take my laser pointer. Get out of here. I hope they give this guy some sort of probation to where he not only can't go to games, he's just banned for life. We don't need him as a member of the NFL.
I wonder how many laser pointers they end up confiscating at NFL games.
I hope the numbers are not up there, because if that's the case, that means that adults are no better than 12-year-old children in a school. That's horrible. I'm going to take a laser pointer so I can flick it in Tony Romo's eyes. You're a real winner, buddy.
Yeah, you don't need to distract Romo. He'll do it himself.
We're going to go there after the game we watched this Sunday.
More fans behaving badly, Bo. It was during the Chiefs at the 49ers. A fan fight in the bathroom. Now, you might be saying to yourself, why did that Chiefs fan beat up that 49er fan? No, you might think that, but you'd be wrong. It wasn't a Chief versus a 49er, or 49 versus a Chief. This is 49er fan on 49er fan violence.
Woo.
And it was bad. It was an ugly fight. One of the guys got knocked out, fell back, hit the back of his head pretty hard. They're saying potential brain damage.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So like we were saying, if you're an NFL player and you want to know why your fans aren't supporting you and showing up to the stadium, it's drunken idiots like this.
Thank you.
Forget just going there with you and your boys. Imagine taking children,
It's why coaches and players and NFL executives get so angry when everybody points the magnifying glass at the NFL and wants it to be held above society. Because if you go to a game, I don't care if it's a college game, I am afraid I can't take my kids to the school that I played football at unless I get a ticket that is given to me from Bob Davies through APS Athletics, because that ensures that I'm sitting next to alumni, fellow coaches, and other people that are there to watch the game. If I just buy a general admission ticket, I have been in a circumstance where I thought I was going to have to fight a guy because he was spilling his drink all over the people in front of him. There were kids in the crowd. He's dropping F-bombs, Sean. The Lobos were already just getting abused. I want to say we were playing Texas Tech a few years ago, and I was embarrassed. And I'm thinking, if this is what goes on at Broncos games, Cowboys games, whatever, Alabama games, I don't want to go. I'd just rather stay at home watching on my HD TV and eat as many bratwursts as I can eat until I pass out. That's a good day for me.
Yeah, and you're not alone. Short bathroom lines at your house.
Yes.
Not a lot of nuisance to put up with. If the kids are being unruly, send them to your room. And
go to your room.
Yeah, that's about all you really got to worry about.
And it's funny because I have the in-laws. They're huge Broncos fans. And this guy here is a retired city worker. He has not a care in the world. The money's in the bank, owns everything, had season tickets for the Broncos. has his first grandchild. It's a boy. He's so excited. Takes his grandson to 2 Broncos games, sells the season tickets, and says, I took him to learn about football. And the only thing he learned was potty words. Like the kid was coming back from Denver to Albuquerque saying the things that he was hearing that the fans were saying. And you're thinking to yourself, this is at an NFL game in the stands.
Yeah.
Like, and we're worried about what the players are doing, yet the adults sitting in the crowd can't keep their mouths shut and not say the things that they're saying. Yeah, so I agree.
Well, maybe he learned where Omaha was.
That's what it was, Omaha.
Well, from fans fighting to players fighting, police at the University of Florida were called to the stadium on Monday night to break up an incident among teammates, Bo. Sophomore quarterback Skylar Morningwig and true freshman defensive lineman Gerald Willis III got into a fight outside the stadium over cleats. Yeah, Skylar Morningwig couldn't find his cleats. Apparently, team officials found him in his teammate's locker. He assumed that the guy stole his shoes from him, and they threw some bows outside the stadium. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of little skirmishes that teammates.
Yeah,
it happens. I'm sure, but this might be one of the stupidest reasons to go I've ever heard of.
When I was reading that story and I got down to the bottom there, and they said who his dad was, everything came to light. The kid is probably riding around school in a car that costs more than the whole block. Houses cost. His dad is an offensive coordinator, correct?
That makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, I've dealt with a few rich guys in the locker room. You in America, we all say we want to be rich, we want our kids to be taken care of, but you know what goes on in any school, high school, middle school, college. If you're the kid with the Mercedes in the parking lot and everybody else is eating ramen noodles, these types of things happen.
So what was, without naming names here, Bo, what was the stupidest altercation in a locker room between teammates you've ever seen?
Silliest altercation probably would have to be it would be along the lines of roommates. So when we're allowed to move off campus after your freshman year, people would move in together. Well, it's amazing. You can call yourself a teammate with a guy, but to call yourself a brother and a roommate, that's a whole nother deal because, people are just different. You got one guy who washes his clothes and you got another guy who doesn't believe in washing anything. And somehow they're on the same football team and then they end up living in the same house. Well, these are some of the fights that could almost ruin your whole season, but they were big deals. Man, you know what, Bo? I don't like to talk about people, but that dude over there, he hasn't washed a dish.
So basically the same things that all college students with roommates fight over.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Not washing dishes.
I like this. The spokesman for the University of Florida said, quote, "It was a misunderstanding between two teammates. Coach Muschamp has not announced any discipline decisions at this time." And I guess when the police were called to the scene and they took their reports and everything like that, they both signed complaint withdrawals. They kind of agreed to say, nothing here. So no charges were filed, despite the fact that Morningwig wound up in the hospital with a bloody lip.
Now, Morningwig, I'm wanting to see, this may get him some cred with the team.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. The guy had like 40 pounds on him.
Yeah, he's a D lineman.
Right.
So if they were testing him just to see if he was some rich boy who had a dad that was a coordinator in the NFL. Because I'll be honest with you, playing at UNM, this kid showed up. He ended up being like our 4th-string quarterback, which nobody carries 4 quarterbacks in college. His dad was a scout for the Seahawks. And you're just like, he wasn't worth anything. The kid was horrible. And just showed up one day, a walk-on, and then in a semester he had a scholarship. And you're like, well, how does that work? That didn't work for me. My dad didn't come talk to the coach, and then I got on the team.
They share numbers, right? On some college football rosters, they have double numbers.
Yeah.
So I mean that could probably pretty much explain why if they were the same number, then there might have been some confusion there.
There you go. No, that does make sense. That does.
Right. Well, coming up on the show, it was an historic Saturday in college football. So many upsets. We'll talk about that. Plus, there's the matter of some picks we made last week. We'll see how we did, make Week 6 picks. Plus, Bo unveils the top 5 teams that are doing it right in the NFL. He's become somewhat of a sabermetrician, but I think he's just looking for an edge in this week's picks. So it's all coming up on the Sean and Bo Show. Thank you once again for listening to the Sean and Bo Show. Last week, we asked you to share the Sean and Bo Show on Facebook, and it'd be great if you did that again this week. But we have a new challenge for you listeners. We would like you to connect with us on Twitter. If you use Twitter, give us a follow at Sean and Bo Show. It's a great way for you to keep up to our takes and opinions between episodes, and we do a lot of smack talking on Twitter. So definitely hit that up. Handle at Sean and Bo Show. Back to the show. Welcome back to the Sean and Bo Show. Thank you for hanging out with us. It was a crazy weekend of college football. I was so pissed off that I had to work about half of Saturday, so I missed some of the best games, but I was tuned into my radio and then even got to see UCLA lose at night. It was the most top 10 upsets in college football history, correct?
Yeah.
Now, in the year where we have a college football playoff, this is just kind of humorous to me that this is happening so early in the season where so many teams that are, shoo-ins for winning their conferences, et cetera, are just dropping like flies.
Last week, I was sitting over here talking about the perfect top 10. I was all hung up on that because, I was looking at it and I'm like, wow, this is a heck of a top 10. Now, just throw that out, rip it up, throw it away. One thing from the weekend, I was surprised, here we are getting into Tuesday, going to be Wednesday when we wake up and the show's posted. Nobody's really all over Notre Dame. Like, you throw a touchdown pass less inside of a minute against Stanford in the rain. It's already getting cold in the Indiana, Chicago, Indiana area. And I'm like, wow, they survived. They escaped when everybody else went down. Not a lot of talk.
I'll tell you why. 2 weeks from now, they play number 1 Florida State.
Yeah.
So where they are right now in the rankings does not matter one iota.
Yeah, and Florida State still has to show something to me. They are I think you deserve to be number 1 if you're a national champion and you're returning seniors and starters until you get beat. You earned that last year. But the NC State game and then the way they kind of sputter each week to get their offense going, and Jameis looks like he's thinking about crab legs. I'm not 100% in. I just don't think they even – Florida State could mess around and not be in that playoff because now you're past the weeks where you can lose early and climb. Now you got to hang on.
So you can't
lose.
So you don't think Florida Straight is strong?
Not strong enough to move on, buddy.
Now, Ole Miss shocked Alabama, and that seemed just raucous there. Of course, the students stormed the field, jumped up on the goalposts, ripped them down. SB Nation had a great feature where they tracked the goalposts. These goalposts were carried by students all across campus. They wound up in some student's apartment.
Yes.
It was awesome. They made a map of the destination of the goalposts. But following that, they got fined $50,000 for storming the field because while you can do it in basketball, it's apparently a safety violation in football. So they get fined for that, and Ole Miss had a genius idea, Bo, about how they were going to raise that money. Well, cut up the old goalposts and sell them.
There you go.
So this was in a course of 4 hours, Bo? They raised how much money?
I see 85,000 here.
Yeah, in 4 hours' time.
That's crazy.
Goalpost cost $11,000 to $12,000, and they got fined $50,000. So they actually profited.
Well, here's the worst part, as I hinted off air here. That's one of the poorest states, and they were able to raise this money between a group of less than 1,000 people. I want to say it was around 700 people raised that $85,000. Ladies and gentlemen, you now live in the United States of the SEC. If you need to raise money for anything, just tack it on to an SEC team that's playing good football. You'll raise your money in no time. Need $100,000? Rip down some SEC goalposts. You'll get 150 in 4 hours. Hey, come on, people.
Want to sponsor some poor school children? Slap a logo on their forehead.
Yeah, this is the Poor School Children sponsored by the University of Alabama. Roll Tide, Roll Tide.
These are the Roll Tide poor students.
Yeah, it is startling to me being a New Mexico grad, University of New Mexico. We raise $85,000 the entire offseason. Like, that's a good 6 months for us. You guys go and get 85,000 because you destroyed something. Like, I wish it worked that way around here. After the show, Sean, I'm driving over to University Stadium. APD try and stop me. I'm tearing the field apart.
And that's how Bo got tased.
Oh, gosh. Come on. Just let us have a little bit of that money. The Mountain West could survive 10 years if we had one Saturday's worth of ticket revenue. Not even the TV money, just the ticket revenue. Gosh.
Now, we're going to get to NFL picks here in just a few minutes, and we even have a Bigfoot story coming up for you. But before we do that, Bo he's had a calculator out and graph paper. I don't know what the hell he's doing over there, but he tells me he has the definitive top 5 NFL teams doing it right by the numbers. Bo, please explain yourself.
Yeah, now I don't want to mislead you guys. I'm not going to give out the top 5 teams. I have 3 categories. It is completion percentage, rushing yards, and points allowed. That list is going to have 5 different teams on it. You know, that can change. But what you're going to start to notice when I name some of these names, there's certain teams that have managed to get in 2 categories. Nobody's in 3 categories, but if you can be in 2 categories, guess what? You're leading your division right now. Or you're in a position to grab first place with just 1 win. So just starting off the list with the completion percentage. In order to get on this list, you have to have at least a 95 QB rating. That cuts off the top 12 quarterbacks right there. Russell Wilson, 70% completion percentage. Phillip Rivers, 70%. Tony Romo, 70%. Right under that, at 68%, Andrew Luck and Ben Roethlisberger. Interesting list. No Breeze, no Brady,
I didn't
no
think
Manning.
Roethlisberger was doing that well.
He is. He really is. And when I looked at this list, I put these together, it really jumped out to me because I'm like, wow, if you're on this list, you're winning some games. This means that people are catching the football. What has Manning been dealing with? Welker went down. He's had to put people in positions to take on a little bit more responsibility than they're used to, and you have miscommunication, you got dropped balls, and somehow the Broncos have that loss. Well, maybe you can equate that to drop passes, miscommunication, whatever. Manning's got a 66 completion percentage. That's not good in my standards. I think even in college, guys like Vince Young were throwing 70% completion percentages. If you're hitting open receivers, they should catch the ball. Moving on. Rushing yards.
Okay.
This one here. This is a fun one. I know you'll like this, Sean. Dallas. I love that. San Francisco. The New York Jets.
What?
Pittsburgh. And Kansas City. Now, this proves 2 things. You can't be one-dimensional.
No.
Because the Jets are on this list.
That's strange. I would expect the Jets to have like some phenomenal passing stats just because they're always playing from behind.
Yeah.
That is kind of interesting.
One-dimensional teams, you're not going to have success. They do that really well, and they just can't do anything else. You can tell that in practice. They're handing the ball off because what does their coach do? He's a defensive coach. Their coach wants to stop the run, and that's what they're doing because they're doing that in practice. They can run over anybody, but they can't do anything else. Kansas City, Pittsburgh, San Francisco, and Dallas on that list, you can buy into that. You can eat that up. Now, I know you were just getting all over the offensive coordinator because they're passing the ball on 3rd and short.
God. Oh, Bo, that game ruined my whole damn day. I'm still kind of salty about it.
Yeah, I was saying it off the air. You established this physicality with Niles Davis. And then when you get your man back, you think you're going to have this 1-2 punch. And then when you told me they threw the ball on 3rd and short 3 times, I was like, wow, I didn't recognize
I don't even want to talk about it.
That's crazy.
You're going to get me worked up again.
All right, moving on. Points allowed. Now, I think this one here, this is one of those stats that just sticks out to you. San Diego, Cincinnati, Detroit, Baltimore, Seattle. In that order. San Diego Chargers, baby. And this is leading into our next segment, Sean. You got to start giving them their love. They have earned it. They've beat Seattle. They've handled the teams they're supposed to handle. And you can almost the week 1 loss, anybody can lose week 1. You can flip a coin. Week 1, you don't know what's going to happen. They've only given up 63 points Do you realize that Cincinnati's second on that list is at 76 points? And then when you jump up to Seattle, they've given up 83 points. I don't want to play the Chargers right now.
Maybe not right now, but come postseason, that's just a team that I never trust.
There you go. You said it, Sean. And I've been hearing this all day on the radio. I see it on TV. I think it's time that we start to distance ourselves from those Reeves. It was Reeves, right? That was winning all them games and losing in the postseason. We all have that in our head, the Damian Tomlinson years. Oh, man, they can win 14 games, but get in the playoffs, out in the first round. You got to get rid of that. This is not the same team. I watched this Chargers team play. This is not the same team. And the league's not the same. The league was way different when the Chargers were winning out in the regular season and getting their butts smashed in the playoffs. Right now, looking around the league, we have an 8-8 league, Sean. And when we start talking about these divisions, you're going to see what I'm talking about when I say 8-8 league. But that's my Bo's top 5 for all the right reasons. And if you pay attention to this each week, I'm going to hit on it. You're going to start to see how the people that are on this list either have a favorable matchup or whoever they're going into play does not match up for them in their favor. You can really lose games just because you give up too many points or you don't run the ball or vice versa.
I have no idea what the hell we just learned there, but good stuff, Bo.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, now, coming up right now, it's time for picks. Now, before we get to week 6, who won the picks last week there, Bo?
What'd you get? What was your final?
I was a gentleman's 10-5 for my picks.
10-5. Got me by one
That's
game.
right.
9-6.
Scoreboard.
I'll go 9-6 this first week.
It's already over. It's a boat race at this point. It's just the gap's gonna widen and widen and widen.
Just wait till my formula comes through.
Yeah. I still don't know what the hell you're doing with that graphing calculator, but
you'll see.
It looks good. Okay. You're Thursday nighter. And I was telling our friend Clem of the ClemReport.com that to me this week it looks like a gambler's paradise. Now, I don't know if that's them doing a great job with these spreads and just making, knowing my deviant mind and knowing how to try to get some money out of my wallet into the sports books. But there's just so many games that I just feel pretty damn certain about. So that's never really a good sign for a gambler. But I don't know. I think if you were waiting to put some money down on some NFL action, this might be the week to start. Okay, so let's look at the matchups. This Thursday, you have Indianapolis at Houston. I took Indy. They're favored by 3 points. Bo, who you got?
Going by my list, Andrew Luck's in my top 5, so I got to pick Indy.
That's a game that I'm not like. That's not one of the ones I'm talking about. I could see, it's at Houston. I don't feel super strongly about that, but I the spread, like I said, is Indy by 3. If Indy was at home, they'd probably be 6.5, 7-point favorites. So Vegas obviously feels strongly.
I wish we could do one of those Sports Nation polls, because right now, if I'm listening to this show, people, you need to go with the guy that's got a system. I got a system over here. My man's working with gut feelings.
You've got a 20-sided die in front of you. What the hell? That's not a system.
This is a system, baby, and it's going to work.
Okay, Sunday games. First one, Jacksonville at Tennessee. Who you got, Bo?
This one is hard for me because neither one of these teams made any top 5 lists that I have. So I'm just going to go with my gut, Tennessee.
I got to agree. I think Tennessee wins that game. Spread currently Tennessee by 6. So we're straight chalk so far. Okay, next game, Baltimore coming off a loss at Tampa Bay. I don't think that's going to be too hard of a game for Baltimore. Give me the Ravens.
Yeah, I'll take the Ravens. They're a top 5 defense.
Okay, next game, another stinker. This one, I mean, maybe you set yourself up a nice 4 or 5 game parlay and go money line. Denver at Jets. There's no doubt in my mind Denver wins this game. I don't know if I take the 8-point spread, but Denver's winning this game. It's period.
Now, this is where you have to be educated on how to use the bow system. The Jets may be in the top 5, but they're one-dimensional.
Is that a Ouija board? What the hell are you doing over there? All right, so you're taking Denver also.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next game, it's another early game. Lions at Vikings. Vikings, of course, got absolutely blown out by the Green Bay Packers last week. I don't think that they're going to have much of a comeback game. Give me the Lions.
Yep, Lions top 5 defense again.
And that's a spread that's pretty close. Currently, only Lions by 1.5. And if you're listening, you'll notice that Bo has obviously stolen my picks as we're number for number so far. Okay, still on the early games. You have the resurgent Patriots going to Buffalo. This is an interesting game here. I don't know, man. This was one of the tougher ones. I just think that the Patriots are fired up, that they're all kind of rallying behind Tom Brady right now. So I'm going to ride that wave. Give me the Patriots.
He is a crazy man. Buffalo and Miami are always going to get one win from the Patriots every year, at least one. And this is the one.
All right, next game, Carolina at Cincinnati. Cincinnati, of course, was undefeated and finally lost to those Patriots. I don't think it matters. I think it's going to be close, but give me the Bengals.
Yep, Cincinnati's a top 5 defense. They're on my list. I got to pick them.
More defensive teams. Second to last early game, Steelers at the miracle comeback, Cleveland Browns. Not very impressed with the Steelers so far this year. I don't really respect them too much. Playing on the road, give me the Browns. I think that's a pretty certain pick.
Yeah, I have to take Pittsburgh just based on the fact Ben Roethlisberger's completing passes and Mr. Le'Veon Bell is a top 5 rusher. They're on my list.
Last early game, Packers going all the way down to South Beach to play the Dolphins. This one is kind of interesting to me. I don't think it's going to be as much of a shootout as the Thursday night game with the Vikings was, but I still think the Packers are going to win this game. Give me Green Bay.
Oh, boy. This is a tough one, Sean. This is another one of those games. Neither one of the teams statistically give you anything. Eddie Lacy decided to show – Eddie Lacy, right,
Mm-hmm.
running back for the Packers, showed up last week. You want to pick Green Bay, but I'm going to have to go Miami. I feel the Dolphins are going to win.
You're just giving me this. All right, I like it. I'll take it. On to the afternoon games. First one is – San Diego, we just talked about, at Oakland. Jeez. Bloodbath,
Don't
massacre. These are just some words that come to mind. I think we're both in agreement there. Chargers are going to run away with this one. San Diego wins. We're in agreement there, Bo, but if you were a gambling man, do you take the Chargers and their 7-point spread?
Yeah,
I agree. I think that's another game that looks pretty lucrative there for a nice parlay.
Like, what is Vegas going to do? Poison the water supply? Or are they just trying to get people to waste money? What's going on?
They're hoping Phillip Rivers makes his bolo tie a little too tight, cuts off the blood flow. I don't know, but there you have it. Another afternoon game, Bears at Atlanta. Spread's only 3 points. I'll take it. Give me Atlanta.
Oh, my man. You're really going to pick them? I'm going with Chicago.
Good. All right.
That's an interesting. I wouldn't think that you would go for Atlanta. I just wouldn't think that.
I don't know if I'd take the spread or not, but I could see it being a close game. And then,
because do you feel like that whole NFC South is like each team is on the verge of just imploding? Atlanta, Carolina, Tampa Bay has already done it. New Orleans got lucky last week. The whole division, ugh.
You can't see this, but Bo is now clutching 2 of those divining rods. Bo, those are used for finding oil, not making NFL picks. It's not going to help you or your system. With that said, your Cowboys travel to the loud stadium of Seattle. Seattle. Big favorites in this one. 8 points. That sounds about right to me. Go Seahawks.
Good luck. Dallas.
See, I'm glad my Chiefs aren't playing this week because I have no chance of making an emotional prediction here.
Well, the thing about it is, if you look as a gambling man, if you're looking at my system, Sean, you wouldn't bet on this game because each one of these teams are in every category, so it's a toss-up.
All right. Washington to Arizona, that's your final afternoon game. Arizona's been playing tough at home. They suffered their first loss. They rebound. They win this game.
Washington.
All right. Wow. We disagreed with every single afternoon game. It's going to be entertaining. Your nightcap features the Giants at Philadelphia. I want to say this is one of like 2 games that I went against the spread. I'm taking the Giants.
Yeah, I take the Giants too. You know, man, I'm going to be honest with you. Philly, I bashed them here. I've been beating them up. But now I'm starting to think, Dallas, please don't do this to me again. Please do not play lights out all season long, go up against Philly and the Redskins, and guess what, Sean? We're 0-2 against the freaking division. Like, do you not see that happening? Like, doesn't it look like every other year? Washington looks horrible. You don't know what Giants team you're going to play, but when they play the Cowboys, they're going to blow the Cowboys out by 2 touchdowns each game. Ugh.
We need to get you one of these custom jerseys I saw. I think it was Browns fans, a couple. The guy said, "I cry at night." Was the name.
Like that. Yeah, because this is another one of those games where if you're a fan of any team in the NFL, we all experience this. It's not just Cowboys fans. You could like the Cleveland Browns, you could like the Steelers, and then you see them play one week against each other, and you're like, oh, man, we can get them. And then they come play you, and it is the greatest game they've played all season. That's what happens in the NFC East. New York Giants against the Philadelphia Eagles, the game could be 10-6. And then the next week they'll play Dallas, and it'll be 45-32. You know, you just don't know what you're going to get.
Final game of the week, the Monday Nighter. By the way, I just saw on StubHub that you can currently get in the building for the Monday night game, Monday night, prime time, for $10 a ticket. It's like one of the first times I think I've ever thought to myself, wow, I wish I lived in St. Louis.
Golly.
Now, this one, I don't know what the hell Vegas is thinking. San Fran is only favored by 3 points right now. How in the hell?
It's that division, man. That's what that is.
There's no way San Fran loses this game. No way.
What?
None.
How many times have we watched teams in the NFC West just get beat by the last place team in the NFC West?
If you haven't noticed this trend, Bo, primetime games so far this year are almost all blowouts.
Yeah.
That's not very scientific, but it's a fact. San Fran wins the game. You going to disagree?
No, I'm not.
Okay, that's what I thought. So, Bo, his Ouija board, 20-sided dice, and now what looks to be a coloring book have made his predictions. If you want to make some money, listen to me. That's all I got to say.
Good luck.
And finally, this week, we have a bit of a Bigfoot story, except this time it's not so much a Bigfoot sighting as us here at the Sean and Bo Show being friends to Sasquatch. We're gonna bail him out a little bit, Bo. What's the story all about?
Well, as you know, we love us some Sasquatch in here. If you've watched or listened to other episodes and got over to check out that what was the Paranormal Report, the video that was uploaded.
Paranormal Reviews, yeah.
Paranormal Review. That's great stuff. And I want to defend my man because, you know, being a big guy myself, I've often been victim of unfair judgment towards us big people. We're not out there just to bash and beat everybody and steal your chicken, man. You know, I'm a gentle guy sometimes. I'm a gentle giant. And I'm up the other night, Sean. I'm watching reruns of an old show. It's Weird or What, I think is what it was called on the Discovery Channel. And they're talking about this Bennington Triangle. It's somewhere in Vermont.
Never heard about this.
I had never heard of it either. It's one of another famous triangles, kind of like the Bermuda Triangle, where there was just tons of disappearances through about a 30-year period. None of them were explained, and only one body was found during this whole time. People have speculated to say it was serial killers, it was aliens, people running away from life. But this one here, kind of got me upset, Sean. They wanted to blame our buddy, the creature.
No.
Yes. Like, if Bigfoot's anywhere in America, is he in Vermont? I'm just going to put that out there. The East Coast is one of the most heavily populated regions in the world, and Bigfoot is going to find a place to nest and hide out. I just don't believe it, especially when he's within earshot of the White House. I mean, golly, how far is this area from Maryland? I mean, you're telling me
pretty far.
Well, it's not in the scheme of when you live out west. You can literally take that whole part of the country and fit it in New Mexico.
Right.
So, like, to think that he's just going to pick a little spot that's the size of like Santa Fe and just say, this is where we're camping out, kids. There's 60% of the population here in the United States, but they're not going to find us. So I'm watching this special and I'm like, they're really going to blame this on Sasquatch. And then this guy comes up at the end and he tells the truth. This is who was really doing it. This is my theory. It was the mountain lion, Sean.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
If you look at how
because all these guys, all these people that went missing were like by themselves.
Yes, they're by themselves, and then they were not finding the bodies. What does a mountain lion do? It's going to drag its prey, whatever it's going to eat. It's dragging it back to the den for the cubs, right? It's got to take care of a pride. It's got a bunch of people in there. Don't ever, and listen, this is a threat. I guess it is. Don't ever be out there putting my man's name in your mouth. What's the offensive lineman for the San Francisco 49ers? If you're not in this locker room, if you're not on this podcast, don't be talking about us. Keep our name out your mouth. Sasquatch is not the murdering type. He's just not that kind of guy. If he was going to murder us, he already would have done it. When I'm out there camping, Sean, you like to go camping without a tent.
Yeah, that's right.
Sean, he sleeps under the stars. If Sasquatch wanted to do anything, he would get that guy. Sean is big enough to feed a whole family of Bigfoot for at least a week.
Don't give him any ideas now.
But no, we just had to put that out there. We haven't talked about anything paranormal in a few weeks since the NFL started. And I thought that was an interesting story. We had to come to the aid of the big man. He's kind of like the NFL. We had to save him.
He's misunderstood.
Yeah, misunderstood.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, that's going to do it for this episode of the Sean and Bo Show. So until next week, I'm Sean O'Donnell, along with my co-host Bo Greer, reminding you, tip your pizza man.